Hi,
Okay, good morning.
I'm Dr. Jeri Ellis, and I am faculty at Capella University, and I'm so excited to be a part of the Therapeutic Speakeasy. And my goal with you is to give just a brief experience here with Dr. Robert Wubbolding, and who is a very dear friend as well as my personal trainer in my reality therapy choice theory certification. So I welcome you from Cincinnati, Ohio, which is also my hometown, but you'll notice his excellent WDEP logo, which actually is what many of the first-time learners about the theory recognize, but we know that there is so much more to the theory, and so it was my idea to have a conversation with Dr. Wubbolding, and so I'm going to ask him to respond to a few things and give you an insight into someone who has actually been huge in terms of promoting the theory, teaching the theory, living this particular theoretical orientation. So, Bob, what I'd like to ask you first is, you've had this great experience of many years, you can tell us how many, because I'm not sure, it's a lot, about advancing reality therapy and choice theory in the world. Could you talk about that?
Okay, sure. Well, first of all, thanks for the opportunity. I love the opportunities to talk about reality therapy, and people are interested in how I got involved in it, which is always a surprise because I think it's the ideas that are the most important, but people like to know about the individual's relationship with it, and so I appreciate the opportunity to talk about this. I first got involved in it in 1972 when I attended a workshop training up in Cleveland, Ohio, put on by Ed Ford. And after that, I went through the certification myself and was at the first certification week that was held in 1975 in Los Angeles. One thing led to another, and then I ended up writing some books about it. And I think that the theory it's very simple, but there's a lot of depth to it. And you can pull out ideas and you can see extensions to it and additions to it. And so I just kept thinking about it and attending trainings put on by other groups such as the Milton Erickson Foundation and of course the ACES conferences and the ACA conferences, and learning various ideas and kind of incorporating them into the system. And I think one of the major things that I was able to do was just to look at the theory and the practice, such as self-evaluation, and add many ideas to that component. It's a very important component, but to make them explicit and then to teach them as specific ideas. I don't want to say steps, but discrete interventions, and then when you learn it, you kind of integrate these, and that's been my experience, is to help people learn it and then learn the components and then integrate them with each other, and then of course integrate it into their own lives. So it seems to me that's been my experience with this as far as developing it and extending it.
Well, and when you use that word extending, I got involved myself because we're both from Cincinnati.
Yeah.
I knew your background, but also because I was clearly aware of the practical application, and I wanted to know more. And as I got involved, one of your partners in training was John Burkell, who's from England, and the whole world opened up, and I recognized that choice theory and reality therapy is around the world, and I believe you had a pretty big hand in that.
Well, yeah. Of course, one of my great sources of pride is to get Jeri involved in it. And actually, I didn't get her involved. She chose to take the training and to become an instructor, and you've really stayed with it, and I appreciate that because it's always a joy to see you and to see how you have continued to be committed to the ideas. And but anyway, yes, I have had the opportunity to travel to the United Kingdom and work there in Asia, and I introduced the ideas with somebody else into Japan, and Ron Carlton is his name, and they just celebrated their 25th anniversary this year and had a big conference there. And Sandy and I were flown over by the Japanese and taught there for a week, and then went to Korea. So we've been to Morocco and Kuwait and Malta and Romania
and we have
quite
South
a few
Africa,
places.
Yes, what? Croatia?
And Southeast Europe is very interested in the ideas. Croatia and Slovenia and Bosnia-Herzegovina and places like that, which are really quite surprising that they're so interested. Now, I didn't introduce the ideas in all those places, but somebody has, and they're flourishing there. So it's a struggle. It's a struggle because of a lot of reasons that
Governance
finance,
was one.
governance,
yes,
and
yeah.
people,
Sure.
and budgetary issues are playing a major part in our training. But it is widely practiced around the world, which to me gives it credibility as far as its applicability in many cultures. So the Japanese, of all places, which is a culture very different than ours, perhaps the most different of the ones I mentioned earlier, they are very enthusiastic about it. They adapt it, and they translate the ideas into their language and use it in, I think, a very different way than we do, but in ways that we can learn things from them and use it in our own culture.
Sure, and what I've witnessed myself is the support that you offer, though. And so, for instance, in South Korea, there's a very strong presence there, and I know we have an announcement for next year's conference.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah. I'm hoping that people will go to Korea and save your money now, and go to Korea, because the first Asian International Conference will be held. This is the first international conference in reality therapy held in Asia, and it will be held in Seoul, Korea, July 7th to the 9th, 2016. And the prime mover there is Rose Inza Kim, who was a dean at Sogang University, the first female dean at this Jesuit university in Seoul, Korea, and she's the Glasser of Korea, and she is the prime mover behind this conference. And so some of us are working very hard to encourage people, to recruit people to attend it, maybe get on the program, submit proposals, and try to appear on that program. And we're hoping, and we're pretty sure it will be a big conference. She herself and her team have facilitated, she said just to us this summer, over 500 master's and doctoral dissertations in reality therapy. So there is a lot of research coming on. The best of it is coming from Korea. I said, Rose, please translate that into English.
Yeah, and I remember having that conversation because I was fortunate to meet her.
Yeah.
But, you know, what I'm hearing you say there then may lead into where is reality therapy going? What are the next steps? And, you know, I know that you retired as director, but you're obviously still with the center and trainings every year. What do you see as a value for your own participation, perhaps? Or, you know, what are the next steps? Where's reality therapy going?
Well, I think that one of the things that I see happening is the integration with neuroscience. And from my reading and study and attending trainings especially with Daniel Siegel, that the work in neuroscience has validated reality therapy and choice theory. One of the simple examples is that Daniel Siegel defines the human mind as a relational process that seeks to regulate the flow of information and behavior. So it seems that we could translate that definition into choice theory, which in which we say that many problems are relationship problems. Why? Because your mind is a relationship process. That's how it develops. And it regulates the flow of behavior, which is the output and the input information. Now, I'm not sure Siegel would see it quite that same way, but I'm just trying to translate what I know of his thought into choice theory, because it does seem to fit and it does seem to validate. I just see that as a direction that we need to go in. Plus applications to schools. We need to develop that and use this in the classroom, teach it to teachers and so on. So it fits quite nicely with the mission of educators in public schools and private schools. So I think that will become more widespread, that education of teachers. It does take efforts, though. It takes a real effort, because every curriculum is full, whether it's the curriculum in an elementary school or a curriculum in a teacher training school or in a counselor education institution. Where do you put this stuff? And it's not an easy effort. But we're doing it.
We are, and we've been doing it, and I think that's what's so great is, Glasser actually sought to understand the brain.
Yeah.
So the connection to neuroscience just makes sense to me. It's almost fulfilled.
Sure. And I'm hoping, I'll tell you, one of the things for the future is I'm hoping you will write about this, because you're so committed to it. And I want to just say that Jeri was what's called a Glasser Scholar, which is a competitive program where university professors applied for training to be certified and use the ideas and go on and become instructors with the William Glasser Institute. And Jeri has really stuck with that and done a beautiful job teaching it. I hear from her students at this conference, this ACES conference, they say, "Oh yeah." And
we've heard about reality therapy.
We've heard about it from our instructor, and I said, I think I know which one that is.
Well, thank you, and I am very excited to talk about it. I do faculty demonstrations for Capella in our residencies, where our students come together for their face-to-face contact, and I really enjoy it and get a lot of good feedback, because I think sometimes when you hear it and people talk about it, that it comes off the paper, it comes out of the theory book, and then you begin to have a different perspective about it. So that's really exciting. So I'm using it in my courses. I talk about it with supervisees. I talk about it with my colleagues. I'm often asked to very briefly say what it is, and it's pretty hard because it's simplistic in a way, but it's not, because I know one of the things that has become so prominent to me is the idea of perception. And I've learned a great deal about that, which makes it culturally relevant. It makes it very ecological in how I see clients and students. But if somebody were to say, okay, so you're supervising me or other trainees, I mean, we train people who are not college educated into choice theory, where they can still use the basic principles. But so I could be supervising anyone in terms of reality therapy training. What's one thing, very briefly, that you would make sure that you want that individual to know?
I'd like to make it two.
Two, okay. We're flexible.
I'd like to say one of the things I'd like people to learn is about what Glasser calls the quality world, or the world of wants in your head, to define what they want out of life. Emerson said, beware of what you want, in all likelihood you will get it. So inserting into your head what you want out of life, what you want to achieve today, what you want to accomplish, relationships you want to have, that would be one thing that I think we can teach people. And that they don't need college educations to do that. In fact, in our training program, we train anybody that shows up, because Glasser has one of his efforts throughout his life, and by the way, he deserves the credit for all of this, and I want to give him the credit. One of the things he did was to try to demystify mental health, make it more accessible to people. And one way to do that is to help people define what they want that is reasonable, that is sane, that is healthy. And then the second thing I would like to get across is the self-evaluation. to help people self-evaluate is what you're doing. Helping you is what you're doing, getting you what you want. And the reason I think that is so important is that as human beings we have what I like to call an undying belief in things that don't work. If it isn't working, do it some more. And we hold the mirror before people and we say, look in the mirror and tell me, is what you're doing working? Is it helping you? And this is tough if you're raised in a chemically dependent family. This is a tough thing to do because you got contrary data in your head. If it's a family where there's a great deal of attention deficit disorder, it's hard because sometimes the
hard
parents,
to focus. Period.
You can't focus, and you have all this turmoil. It's hard to self-evaluate. So we can teach people this, and I think those are two things, two components of choice theory and reality therapy that people can benefit from when they learn it. So it seems to me those are the important things.
All right, so I know how busy you are because I know you so well. How do you take care of yourself?
Oh.
You come to conferences, you are traveling
How
around
do I
the
do
world.
what?
Take care of yourself.
That's what I thought you said.
I know you have an amazing and lovely wife, Sandy, who is such a great support to all of us as trainees, but also to you in this mission, and who's also trained in the theory. So it's, I know how important she is, but what do you do specifically?
Well, this is a good question because taking care of myself isn't separate from working, because to me it's enjoyable. I don't consider it hard work at all. Meeting people, which I love to do at conferences and talking to them, and my relationship with my wife, we were talking last night, we both said, as glorious as this is to be here and the wonderfully warm response that reality therapy and we have received, the best thing is to be together here and to do this together, and it's a glorious thing for us. But also, more specifically, or I should say separate from that, is the idea of traveling, and we love to travel and go places, and we went to Korea and Japan, as I said, and got time to do some things and see some things. So we love to travel, and we exercise. We exercise.
Excellent.
And we're going to exercise at the end of the day today and see a little bit of Philadelphia. So improving our mind, improving our physical health by exercise, that's something we take and we do very, very seriously. So that's what we do. It's simple. It's not complicated. It's not exotic. It's just traveling, talking, being together, and exercising.
All of those things which I know you do so well. And I really want to thank you again for giving us maybe a little more than the 5 minutes or so, but you're always so genuine, and you talk about this theory, this therapy so easily and so passionately, and I encourage people to consider it, look into it. There's a lot of information on the website for the Center for Reality Therapy, and I know how accessible you are, and you all are certainly welcome to call me, email me at Capella, and I'm happy to share information about resources. And thank you for watching.
Thank you, Sarah, for doing this.